selling the euro and buying something else. Now, let's turn to Japan. All right, Abenomics, a new phrase in the English language. Mr. Abe, I hope that's not the Yasukuni Shrine, by the way, because he's known to go there. Now, if you know what the Yasukuni Shrine is, it's not a very good thing to go to, basically. Japan was the obvious market to buy last year. JGB yields were, that's Japanese government bond yields, were at rock bottom levels. Japan has got very large savings, stuffed in the post office, stuffed in banks, stuffed under the mattress. They still use cash to a large extent in Japan. Mr. and Mrs. Wakimoto were looking for yield. Buying the stock market was obvious because the stock market was yielding 2.5%, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's very favorable compared to what you get on Japanese government bonds. At the same time, the government was determined to eradicate deflation, which has plagued Japan for the past 20 years. So they came out with this targeting, 2% inflation by 2015, a doubling of the monetary base by 2015, and an extension of the average maturity of the JGB market from 3 years to 7 years by 2015. They've tried this before, but this time they may succeed because they're doing it on a very, very wide scale. The obvious thing was to go short the Japanese yen straight away, which is what I did along with my colleagues. However, you can devalue your currency to a certain extent, but ultimately the Americans are going to start complaining, the Koreans are going to start complaining if you devalue it too much. And I think now, at about 100 or just under 100 to the US dollar, the Japanese yen is fairly valued. Commentators who 6 short months ago were predicting the yen was going to go to 70 or 60 to the US dollar, all of them wrong, I have to say, are now forecasting the yen will go to 105 to 125 to the US dollar. It absolutely amazes me how these economists can get away with it. I don't know if you know that Harry Truman once asked for a one-handed economist, and when he was asked why he wanted a one-handed economist, it was because all the other ones he had in the government were going on the one hand and on the other hand. So he said if they only have one hand, they can only make one prediction. So these economists that so many people follow have got it wrong on Japan, and I think they're going to get it wrong again, because I do not believe that it's in Japan's interest to have the yen much weaker than the current level. Remember, they are a very big importer of, for instance, fuel. They don't have any natural resources. So the higher the rate of, the weaker the yen, the more expensive it is to import basic commodities, which kind of counterbalances the export boost that they're getting from the depreciation of the Japanese yen. The other thing is that Japan is no longer particularly cheap. It's at 20 times earnings, and the dividend yield is now 1.5%. The exporters, to a large extent, have got a lot of overseas operations. And I've just bought a couple of Nissan Qashqais, fantastic car, by the way, and I'm not being sponsored to say that, and it's made in the UK, made very well in the UK. So whereas in the past, the benefit of a depreciating yen would have accrued to the exporters directly, now it's sort of dissipated. So there isn't that great big sort of desire on my part to still buy the Japanese market. But I'm very sure that the momentum will continue because it's been in a bear market for so long. And I forecast about 15,000 on the Nikkei sometime this year. That's up about 10% from the current level. And I don't think there's much mileage to be short the